Hi, my name is Annamieka Hops, and this is the Art Friends Show, where every conversation focuses on getting to know the essence of creativity itself. I'd love to invite you as well to join me inside of Art Friends School, where we go deeper into these topics and join in with other art friends around the world. Thanks so much for joining us, and let's get to the show. Hi! All right, we're here for an Art Friend interview. I'm so excited for today's guest. First of all, my name is Annamieka Hops. I'm an artist in Portland, Oregon. I'm a painter and I do mentoring with artists. And this is a series of 100 days in a row where we are going live and talking about art. So without further ado, I'm going to invite in the prolific, the wonderful, the dynamic Marissa Huber, who co-created Carve Out Time for Art. And we're going to talk all about her art and creative process. Let's see here. Ta-da-da! Yay, there you are. Hi.
How fun. I'm so honored and excited to be here. You just have such great energy. I mean, I already saw you for a minute before, but you're the best. So excited to be here and have fun.
I feel the same way. We were just chatting. I'm like, as creatives, we have ideas that come to us, that beckon at us. And this idea of having an art friend show has been a very persistent visitor for me. It's like, make this, and I'm just so grateful to you and to our community for everyone tuning in and signing up for interviews, because we're making this together. You're helping me workshop this show, and I hope to give it a long-term form. And on that note, one of the first questions I wanted to ask you, Marissa, is, kind of going back to the inception of your concept of Carve Out Time for Art, and then the subsequent book, like The Art of Motherhood. Those big projects, when did they beckon at you, and what was the creation process like?
Oh, I love the question. So happy to be here. Hi, everybody. If you don't know me, Marissa Huber. I think, so Carve Out Time for Art, it wasn't meant to be what it was, and it's good because I don't dream big enough sometimes, and that's like something that I need to be better at. The goal was that when I was a new mom, my son's 10 now, I noticed everybody was coming to me being like, you'll never do anything, oh my gosh, like, and I was like, if I did do something, they acted like I was like bragging, and I'm like, I needed to do something for myself, just like you might want to go for a run or whatever. So I said, you know what, there's something here, and I'm going to interview 10 people. That's it. So I just reached out to 10 people. I had this idea. I said, I want to prove out that there are people who can do stuff, and that being a mom doesn't just mean, or a parent, I want to be inclusive. Or like, it doesn't mean that you can no longer do anything for you, whatever that is. And then, long story short, I interviewed 10 people, and I said, like, I don't know what this is going to be, but would you be in? And they all were, yes. And then I just kept going. I did 70 interviews, and one of the people I interviewed was Heather Kirtland, who's now like my partner, creative partner. I said, like, I love to say at the end, like, is there anything that, like a big dream you have? And she wrote, I would love to write a book on this, maybe with you. And she had like deleted it and put it back. Really? And she's like, whatever, I'll leave. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I have that idea too. So we talked, and in 5 minutes, it was actually in 2 minutes, it was like this, like blah, 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 blah. And we said, let's just see if we can make it work. And then I created Carve Out Time for Art as like a hashtag to encourage other people to do it. And then I put it on Instagram so that people had a place to do it and share the interviews instead of just on my personal blog. So that's how it happened. It was very organic.
Wow.
And then I kind of, together in 2015, started bringing it all together and saying, we wanted to show people that they weren't alone, and that it didn't really matter like what the beautiful curatedness that other people might see, that there was room for everybody, and you had to like show up, and it didn't have to be perfect. So that's what we tried to do, to show like, we're definitely not perfect, and we screw up all the time, and we're not even full-time artists. We love that people are, but anyway, that's about it. We just started asking people to do like takeovers, and now we've hosted at least 300 people since 2017.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've got so many chills while you're talking. It's so cool to hear the inception story was similar, and you're like, okay, I have this idea for interviews. I'm going to interview 10 people, and then you followed that thread.
Yeah.
And I'm a beginner interviewer here, and I realized that let's actually take a moment for you to introduce yourself to people who may not have met you before. Like, what's your name? What do you do? Where do you live? That sort of thing. Let's give you the proper introduction before we continue.
You got my vibe. I'm Marissa Huber. I live in South Florida, and I'm married to a painter who was an art professor, representational painter. So that's good. So he encourages me like to make time, but also we're like, and he's a stay-at-home dad.
Uh-huh.
And I have a day job where I have an interior design background, and I do consulting to help companies figure out what to do with their space and bring people together.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of merged into, I'm through Instagram and stuff. I've noticed that like I love connecting people. I'm a people person, but I don't have a big art community in real life down here. I did in Philadelphia where we used to live.
Mm-hmm.
And that's reasons like over the past 7 years I've put so much positive energy into Instagram, because like that's where all of the kindred spirits that I know are, and that's been a really nice like touch point to me. When I'm like at a day job or sitting in a commute, I can like pick up the phone and talk to an artist friend and like part of something, not just like a weekender. And then what do I do? I have 2 kids and a dog. I paint a little bit on, I try to use like acrylic, gouache. I used to use more watercolor in the back, but I like to push the paint around.
Mm-hmm.
Got into surface pattern design several years ago, which was a good way to like incorporate art into my busy life. And I do some of that, but to be honest, I got a little burnt out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the computer and using my hands. So
yeah,
that's about it.
Amazing. Thanks for giving us your personal nutshell and some of the context for which these things that are, such gifts to our community. Your book, Art of Motherhood. I used to have that, my daughter is about to turn 4. And so those years just going in, it was perfect because of my level of exhaustion too. I could read like one person's story and ponder that while eating lunch or a snack or whatever, and then it's just like perfect as a
dose. Yes, we created this book. I'm like, I don't know if I have it here, but it's just exactly that, like inspiration to show people, and it has like an index, and we made it a specific size so you could use like one hand if you needed to.
You did? I had no idea. I've totally done that. That's amazing.
Not too like big enough that's like a beautiful coffee table book, and like we have such gorgeous pictures, but also like small enough that you could hand it, use a hand. Yeah. So
I love that detail. That's amazing. Yeah. So also with this creating kind of this other entity, I mean, even today you're like, all right, are we going live with the community, the carve out time for art? What's it like to be at the helm of that, or actually, how do you feel? Do you feel like you're kind of behind the curtain or at the helm, or what's it feel like to have this other account that's beyond? Yeah.
I think it's ebbed and flowed. When it started in 2015, Heather and I were definitely more showing our face, jumping on live. We did like an annual Instagram challenge, like a 5-day challenge to get people engaged. And I mean, that was 2015, 2016. I mean, I would be sitting there crying at the things people were sharing.
Aww.
It was moving. Yeah. And then we organized like, and this is funny, like I'll solve, like you said, we have a creative idea and it's usually coming from a problem we have. I was a 10-hour-a-week commute, and I'm like, I'm so sick of podcasts. I want to have my own conversations.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to reach out to an Instagram friend. It was Krista David, who was the first one. I said, hey, could we have a chat, like a phone date to talk about this outside of the comments? She's like, sure. And I said, I started just asking people, and I love them so much that I still talk to people all the time. And we asked our community, hey, here's a Google form, like fill it out if you want to be part of this. And we matched up 150 artists in like 2017 to 3 phone calls. And it was just like, before we would kind of like run with ideas and do things. I think over the years, it's probably like just being candid, it's ebbed and flowed, especially as like my work changed. And like Heather is a stylist by day, like, so both of us are pretty busy, but we want to make sure that we're keeping the community there for people. Like we used to do a weekly question. So what am I trying to say? I think like it feels like it's an honor, and we take it seriously, but we also don't want to just like dial it in. So if it ever gets to that point, I probably want to be like, okay, this existed for this period, and now we need, now we're moving on. But we're having some fun with it again this year and kind of refreshing.
Cool. Yeah. I've been nourished by your creation, and as a fellow artist and creative business owner, I think I'm like, this thing that's been beckoning at me is the Art Friend show. I just love talking to artists and creating a sense of community and belonging. And I know my own personal cycles of energy, and there's this thing I'm being called to create of Art Friend World, which is like a bigger community, which is a message that's beyond me for people to make friends with their creativity. And I think the biggest comparison I have is starting my newsletter about 10 years ago and feeling what it's like to have a long-term project that is accountable to other people and kind of does feel like a world creating process. And know how exciting it is, and also how sometimes difficult it is to sustain it.
Oh yeah.
And so I look at you maintaining the carve out time for art, and I can totally applaud you for that innate sense of wanting to show up, but also not wanting to just phone it in or show up in an inauthentic way.
Yeah. Times like the book projects, we knew, we're like, okay, we worked on that for 5 years, and then we launched it in 2020. We were March, actually it was like 3 years ago today, I think, we were at Alt Summit.
Really?
Yeah. And we were dying laughing, saying, well, hey Carrie, we were saying like, hey, to our husbands, 2020 is going to be our year. We're going to be like traveling all over. We planned this book tour. West Elm offered to pay and like host us because like Heather was an artist. We were talking to Minted. We were so excited. Like people were sending donations to help fund it. Yeah. And we were so excited. And then we went to Alt Summit and we're like, oh, like, should we go? What's happening with this COVID? And then boom, it was like, and then we had our book come out, and it was like there's shipping delays and stuff, which these are all first world problems. Like people were dying. There's greater things. But that was a bit like, looking back, we had been working on that for about 5 years. And it was a bit of a personal letdown to just be like, okay, I don't feel like talking about it anymore. I think like we're happy it's out here. Like we just want people to hold it. And if I get one message from somebody saying like, this helped me, or I decided to go seek help because I realized I'm having postpartum depression, like whatever that is, or I decided to pick up art because of this book. Yeah. That meant something to us. But it's not about like, but you can get a little burnt out or like, like.
Well, yeah, it's like, well, what I see too is like before the pandemic, before the lockdown was declared, you had all these external things assisting you, like sponsors and invitations and travel to help get that book out into the world in a bigger way. And then when that happened and it was up to your personal energy to drive it or to reassess and regroup, you also had to sit with that disappointment of it. That's very real. And trust, I mean, that's when we have to be like, dude, it's not always up to me. We can run the business, we can show up, we come up with ideas. I think some are great, I think some are not, and it's not always up to me which ones take off and cause a ripple.
Yeah, and it's, and not to complain because I want to be, but it was, I think it definitely took the wind out of your sails because it came from, and then we were also having to adjust to everything. So I think in the moment it was, I mean, we laughed about it. Like we said, okay, well, here's our book launch, we're publishing it, and it's not what we thought, but we said, like, this is on brand for us. The fact that I'm working from home all day, you're doing something, and we're drinking champagne at lunch, and then like it is like interrupting. You know, if anything, we just, humor is kind of like my love language.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. Can we take a minute for some of your humorous anecdotes? Because in my intake form, I asked for fun facts, and I'm just imagining you in middle school pranking. Can you just tell us a little bit?
Oh yeah. Oh, so I was, you know, the reason I think I care so much about people is because, I mean, I was super nerdy. I mean, I still am in middle school, and I had like, this is a fake tooth, but I had it like on a retainer at the time, and I would like pop out my retainer, and people to this day are like, I remember you had that tooth on a retainer, you could pop it out.
That's amazing. Yep. You're like, psych. And you were an athlete too, right?
I was a diver, and I like platform and springboard, and I played water polo, which is funny because that's why I think I thought, well, I'm good at art, but I'm not like the best. And I'm sports, but I'm not the best. So in my head as a teenager, I thought you really had to be like, you have to excel at one thing, which is kind of bullshit, you know.
Yeah.
You can
also, the fact that you had like this diversified skill set did it make you struggle to identify as an artist at that time? Or
that's actually probably just a common thing about me, that I'm half Filipino, and I'm like raised in two cultures, but I'm sort of always not Asian enough. I'm not all white, like whatever. So if anything, like the otherness made me feel like I didn't ever belong, but I also feel really comfortable being in so many groups now that now it's like a superpower. I mean, I love it. I can be like a bridge and a connector, and it's like, oh, I understand, you know?
Right.
Yes, but I'm also an athlete, and I'm, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you just embody a sense of belonging and inclusiveness. I've always, whenever, like, you've actually been one of the redeeming people on Instagram when I've gone through my grumpy phases and almost quit the app. Like, then I connect with you or people like, you know, that are really here, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, my friends are here. Let's transform our experience. Let's just be together and build this. Yeah.
It can be cutthroat, like not cutthroat, but like if it's in the wrong crowd or if it's in the wrong vein, it's not fun, you know?
Yeah. I've also during my postpartum mental health journey, I did a time where I followed 0 accounts and thought about quitting Instagram entirely, but I followed 0 accounts to try to retrain my brain so I wouldn't spend time scrolling, and I would focus on creating and broadcasting. But what I found then was I actually wasn't as inspired to create and contribute. And so as I've kind of gotten back into it and gotten it back into the culture of it, I'm realizing that it really is in response and in communication that I'm the most inspired. You know, for what it's worth, it's like all about connection.
Well, I think so. I mean, because even I was talking to a good friend who I won't name her, but they like have a similar type of, I know them in like the job sense and the art sense, and I think that's really cool. And we'll talk about like, why is it that we need to share, you know? But I think like when you do create art, it's, I mean, to me, not everybody. My husband's like, I don't care if I'm seen, but like it feels good to me to feel that sense of belonging, that I am seen by someone who maybe understands something that's important to me, or has something similar. Like I can feel your energy, or that you care about creativity, and like you're thoughtful about how you put things together, and that resonates. And then I'm feeling kind of energized or part of the, I don't know, this community of artists or whatever that is.
Yes.
Like when you share your art and you can maybe talk about it or ask for critique or something from somebody, versus just putting it into the void. I think for many people, that's helpful.
Yeah.
And that's if you're creating based on that actual, like that genuine, authentic need versus like, I'm just doing this to make sure that my numbers are like that. I think, you know?
Totally. Yeah. It's like, I'm curious about this with you too. Over my career, you know, I was drawn to start teaching workshops and then online classes, and then students would ask me to work with them one-on-one, and then I created a mentoring offer, which is now my life's work as the signature program. And so I'm a very like artist to artist or like business to business type of service. I work with and for creatives as a fellow creative, and I've seen you, at least I think so. Are you doing mentoring, and do you feel like it's a natural wellspring of being a community oriented person? Or
I think so. I think there's people like, it's funny. My best friend is a certified coach, and she's special. Shout out ladies against the grain. If anybody's in hospitality, she's amazing. But she kept saying like, you're a natural coach, you should coach. And I'm like, no. Cause I had some hangups, and I'm like, I didn't really understand like, oh, there's boundaries around coaching, and like a good coach is actually coaching, or at least how I was taught through my training. Like you have, you know, they're empowered and you're helping them empowered. It's not about like you having the answers. So I said, okay, fine, I'll take this coaching certification, and I got work to pay for it because I can also do it work. But like, yes, I totally do it. Like I mentor a bunch of people for free at work all the time. And I'm like finally saying, yes, I'm a coach. I love it. And I have some clients I'm working with, and I don't know what will happen next, but I'm trying to think about how do I bring, like, what do I focus on? This is so rambly, but because I think like
this is it, how we do it.
In the corporate world, I love to talk to people who are saying, I'm not happy at work, right? But I have to have this job. And I love to talk to them and say, okay, well, is your job your vocation? Or I've had a day job I hated. You know, I actually like my job now. I love it. But what would make your life better if your job is one part, but like you're doing all of these other things? Does that shift it? And how can we shift that so that you can step more into this? And then I have artists that will come to me to say, hey, I'm trying to look for, like, it ends up being in this middle sweet spot, which is kind of funny. So yes, to answer your question, I am taking clients, and I think I'd like to do some group stuff at some point to sort of focus on, putting the right people together to help them. But I'm also taking my time because I don't want it to just take over my creative pursuits and not my own painting, because then I don't want to be resentful.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Absolutely.
Important. I need to do that for myself.
That's amazing. Yes. Where are you with your own practice right now? With, you know, and can I support you right now in this conversation, or, you know, going forward?
My art?
Yeah.
I think, here, let me see. I have been, it's like all over the place, but this is not, but I, like,
yes,
is older, but I like something about this, like the looseness, the color.
Yes.
Been making some different things. That, yeah. This, okay, like this feels too tight. There's something I think it's too tight.
Really?
But I don't know.
Like too tight, like, do you want there to be some kind of mark that doesn't have a completed or hard edge in it? Or what do you mean by too tight? I'm curious.
I feel like if I look at this, which is older, that it's painter, like more painterly and just gestural, it's like me. And this, I think it's, I don't know, maybe it's trying to be something it's not. Although I do, because I want to like practice my drawing and do better. But it's funny, I'm like, I don't really like that color. I could change it though. I do color and I balance, but I'm definitely trying to explore. This is but this is an old collage I did, and it became a pattern.
Yeah.
That's
oh, it's so fun to see a bunch of your work hanging out. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I have that in here. So yeah, I need to find out through doing.
Yeah.
That's what.
If you were going to change the color in that flower, in those blooms, what would you do? Like, what's your sense?
I don't know. Well, it's so funny. Like, I don't like the magenta, like that reddish blue magenta. I have like some internal, I don't know. But somebody did have some feedback. It was kind of my corporate marketing friend, and they said, maybe you need more of those flowers. So maybe try with that. And I don't know. Acrylic was feeling like a little gloppy, like oil. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm a state of question, but I think I just need to like just keep going.
Yeah.
Like call something done and keep going for right now. What do you think? Do you ever have that problem?
Oh my gosh, yes. I gave myself an assignment at the beginning of this year to finish a piece every day until all these little ones around me were done, because I had so many, like, you know, half finished, like even these flowers on here, I had just not committed to their positioning and actually collaged, like glued them down. So I was practicing the art of finishing a piece, and now in continuing my daily challenge, I am painting every day. So I'm engaging with the paint, whether it's pushing it around or finishing or not, because I finally finished all of the like nearly done paintings that were stacking up. But it's absolutely a challenge to just make that couple of decisive moves and move on and say, like, that is a moment in time. That's the art I was capable of making. And I always know I'm going to keep going.
Well, like, that's one thing that I've been enjoying here, where I said, you know what, like, I'm being too precious here, and I'm going to make myself make a decision. And I was listening to something that was saying like that, you know, decide, or like in the Latin, how it's kind of like it's a death of all the other decisions and the other opportunities. And I love that about that, because it is true. Like, so you need to, I mean, painting, anything, it's just a bunch of decisions.
It is. Oh man, do you know about my tattoos that I got? Decisions have been such a core thing for me. I'm going to show you.
I love
you know, so a year ago, I, you know, left my marriage, closed my studio after 9 years, started doing major changes, but I just got "no thank you" tattooed on. It's not that great. I wish I actually kind of want to get "nope" like really big so you can see it from like across the street, but the spirit of it, I also got "I would love to" on this one.
Did you about which one you were putting on which part of your body?
Yeah, I'm leading with "no thank you." Like, it's on my dominant hand, because I'm like a walking open yes. And I always joked that if I just had "no" tattooed on my face, my life would be so much easier. So I did it, and I feel that way, and that's where I'm at now, that I've made some of the like major physical changes in my life. I'm doing that on these micro levels with saying, like, decide, move on, decide, move on. And
because we can't do everything, and sometimes, like, I don't know, I feel like that internal gauge, I probably said yes to too many things, and like, you know, over time, like, you know, when you're like, oh shoot, like, especially if it's an immediate feeling that you're like, oh crap, you know, but like, the world doesn't end because you say no to something.
Yeah,
you know?
It doesn't.
And it's rather somebody say no, but right away, versus like ghost me, or just like, hey, you know what, this isn't the right fit or the right time. Like, that's totally fine. People, we understand. And this is what I tell people, because they'll ask me like, oh, I'm like, you give people the understanding and grace that you're giving to other people, please. Like,
totally. Oh my gosh, please give that. I know I love a good clear no, because my natural enthusiasm is almost aggressive. Like, when I when I want people to join something, it's like, you know, it can be,
you're automatically like, but people don't like. I'm like, I don't need to solve. Like, that's probably part of my learning over the past few years. Oh, I don't have to solve anybody's problems. Oh, Thank you, pandemic, for all the closeness and learnings and stuff, you know,
Yeah.
like just that, that doesn't mean like, you know, I can ask them like, how can I help you? Do you just want to vent? Like, what is it that you need? How can,
Right.
you know?
Yes. I think as community hubs and instigators, which I see you and I kind of just like our essence being, and I think like I'm grateful for that learning. I don't think I could have taken on this project or even considered like building something bigger. That's why I shied away from like bigger courses until I really was actively learning and practicing this like codependency and like that level of like, you know, just kind of letting other people be themselves, and you do you,
Yeah,
I do me. Yeah.
I feel you.
Yeah. Yeah.
For so many people, I'm sure that resonates with, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Especially as empath artists, people who just like can, you know, feel each other's vibes so deeply.
Oh yeah. I mean, great, like facilitating. And if I'm presenting, they're like, how do you know the tone of the room? And I'm like, you know, it's probably, I don't know.
You, you just, I don't know about you, but I just walk into a room and I can feel everybody's energy in my body. My whole life I've had to like practice. I was a massage therapist for 6 years, and I couldn't do it anymore because I would take on so much
Yeah.
of people's. But when I work with artists one-on-one, I do have a way now that I'm able to like pace it and let them be them while still like being really, you know, in that kind of intimate space holding.
Yeah.
In a mentoring capacity. But yeah, I'm still a little nervous to see what it's like to build a big community and sustain that over time. But I know that's just, I feel like we need that. We crave a place to come together.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, thanks for helping me workshop this new concept of the Art Friend show and the Art Friend world. And
anytime. Yeah. I mean, when there's people that like, that's the one thing about the community is like you have like, I like your work. You have Create Magazine, Art Queens, Katerina Popova, and you have Andy J Pizza, and like there's so many.
Yeah.
The Jealous Curator, and I have to say, like, shout out to all of them. Like during 2020, like George Floyd and all of these really, Anne Therese Wood from Savvy Painter is a good friend of mine. I really love her too. But like, there's so many people where if you needed help or said, hey, how are you dealing with this? Or what are you doing? I want to make sure like we have the right tone. Like I remember sending an email or actually an Instagram DM to a bunch of who I would call like community leaders, but a lot are more established in having like specific things. Heather and I are like, hey, this is a place to hang out, but we're not necessarily doing things. They're all, what I want to say is they're all so generous. They are such good people. Every single one of them. I'm sure I'm leaving somebody out, but like the fact that everyone's like, it's collaborative versus competitive.
Yeah.
And people to each other all the time. I just have so many good things to say about all of that.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Good company, and you know.
Yeah. I look up to all of those I look to all of those creators as people who have created like spaces online and in their work for that are very accessible, and I want to co-create something like that with Art Friend World. And you know, it's great also you're a person like that where I could look at you and be like, oh, but she's all that and she has a book published and she has this like amazing online spot and blah, blah, but you're so accessible and willing to help and just chat about what it's like and help build it. So go team. Seriously, go team.
Totally. I know, and I don't like mean to dismiss myself. It's just that it's, if anything, because those are small blips of life, or like the highlight reel always looks good when you're like, oh my gosh, like I'll say, whoa, I did this and I'm so proud of this. And like, these are great. But it's also like, you know, like I fully think that so many people, if you just set your mind to something and you keep going and you find out like, okay, you know, how do you do those baby steps? And so many people can get to something that's important to you, and it doesn't define you as a person. Because I'm like, you, a person, it doesn't matter what goals you create; those are icing, you know, or whatever they mean to you.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Lord.
And I'm good at, like, I'm like, we're going over, but
that's okay. Well,
that is helpful for me is that I think one of those I'm one of the personalities where I'm probably a little bit more extroverted, and I get good things from like my Instagram. I get bored sometimes. I haven't posted in a couple weeks, but I'll message and like share a silly meme with my friends or whatever, and that feels like more filling of my cup than depleting.
mm-hmm.
And when people do stuff, like I don't feel as competitive, and I tell my kids, like, if you're creating content, that usually makes you feel less crappy than if you're just consuming. If you're just playing Roblox, you're not going to feel great. But if you're building Minecraft, you're probably going to feel a little better because like that, you know?
Yeah, the creation, for sure. Yeah.
We'll talk anytime. Call me. I'm always driving.
That's great. Yeah. Now I know about your commutes, and I can have that chat with you. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, the Art Friend Show, and
it's gonna be a hit.
You know, yes. Helping workshop this concept, and it's been so amazing to know you over the years and to learn a bit more deeply about you today, right here live. And let's see where this goes. I hope to turn it into the last thing was you did try out for a TV show. I want to turn this into a TV show one day. What was that experience like when you tried out for a TV show?
So funny. So I should introduce you to my friend MV, who she creates TV shows, and she's just an amazing human. She would be a fun person to interview.
You'd be so fun to talk to, yeah.
No, because of that Alt Summit, somebody saw my name there and they said, hey, we think you'd be a good candidate. Would you like to try out for NBC Making It? With Amy Poehler and Nick Offerman. Oh my gosh, I'm like such a fan of Amy. But both of them, whatever.
Yeah.
So, well, that's crazy. And I have a job and I support all the things. And I talked to my husband and I'm like, I feel like I just have to if I'm asked. He's like, of course you do. We'll figure it out, you know? So I said, all right, I'm not going to think about all the logistics of, you know, my 401, you know, all my healthcare. I applied and I made it to like the phone interview. This was January 2020.
Oh my gosh.
I made it to the interview and then I had to do like, which was fun. And then I did like a second interview, like we had to create something. Yeah. I made it to the next one where you had to like create. I spent so much in art supplies, and we're doing a renovation. So we were staying in like a random house.
Oh, wow.
I was like, I didn't have access to any tools and I had to, you know, whatever. I built all this stuff.
You went all in on this application.
And then when I went to Alt Summit, the person who was on the show, I'm blanking on her name. Anyway, she's the judge. She's wonderful. I'm just blanking on her name. She was like the guest speaker, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like a sign. No. And then I didn't make it. I got like a very nice, you know, note saying like, you made it really far, but you know, we went with some other people, which I'm like, that's amazing. I get it. You know, and if anything, I'll say it worked out because, you know, I support my family. Yeah. I'm a partner, our healthcare, and it would have been really difficult to be away from my kids for 6 weeks. But
yeah,
like, be like, whoa, what could happen? You know?
Yeah, well, that's the kind of thing that could come around in another form too.
You never know, but it was like. Yeah, maybe we could have a show where we go on we go to St. Tropez and we can paint and have fun. And my husband, I think he's in there, he just said, or you could just go do that with your friends.
Yeah, exactly. That's
pay for it.
There you go. All right, let's end there. I could talk to you endlessly. Well, yeah. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, and thank you to those of you who are tuning in right now in the moment or listening in the future. And just please make friends with your creativity. We're here doing it, and I see you, fellow artists out there, showing up, making that happen, making new things that have never been seen before. So
love
keep it up. Okay, bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah. I'd love to have you inside of Art Friends School, where we go deeper into these topics. Follow the link that's in the show notes or find it on my website at annamieka.com.